Good morning and welcome everyone to today's webinar, Responsible Development. Ensure your on-premises intranet is ready for the cloud. We'll talk about why we should build intranets that are cloud ready, even if you never intend to go to the cloud. I'm Spencer Perry and I'm a Communications and Brand Specialist at Habanero Consulting Group. In a few minutes, I'll turn the presentation over to Sal Belal, but in the meantime, I'd like to give you all an overview of today's format and Habanero. This webinar will run about 30 minutes in length. And for those of you that don't know Habanero, we're a consulting company with offices based in Vancouver, Calgary, and Toronto. I'm in Calgary and Sal's presenting out of Vancouver. At Habanero, our mission is to help people and organizations thrive. This is something we're incredibly passionate about, both in the services we provide and within our own organization. We're extremely proud to be ranked the #1 best medium-sized workplace in Canada by the Great Place to Work Institute, our 6th year on the list. And we believe that technology has an extremely important role to play in building thriving workplaces. Now I'll turn it over to Sal to get started talking about responsible development.
Thank you, Spencer. Hello, I'm Sal Belal. Before I begin, a little bit about me. I'm a technical architect at Habanero Consulting Group. I've been working with SharePoint since 2007. Spencer has already provided a brief introduction of Habanero, so I'll first talk about our experiences with building SharePoint intranets and the hidden costs we can incur when we customize SharePoint. Once that's done, I will talk about how SharePoint as a platform itself is evolving and how it can add additional challenges. I'll then talk about what is responsible development. It is our answer to the challenges we face and how we can cope with an ever-changing platform. Using responsible development methodologies as a guideline, we have built our own framework called the Portal Accelerator, and we'll talk about how some of its benefits can help you as well. And we also have a live demo at the end. So let's get started. A great user experience is essential for any enterprise-grade intranet. This typically requires a lot of customization. Here's a screenshot of a typical intranet we can build. As you can see, it has a custom navigation, custom content rollup and web parts, and branding to make SharePoint intranet look nothing like the out-of-the-box SharePoint. Customizing SharePoint is essential. However, customizations could lead to hidden costs down the road, which we may not be initially aware of. And these hidden costs become very apparent when it is time for us to upgrade custom components so that they keep working in the next version of SharePoint, or when we want to migrate user content to the new farm. Customizations often significantly increase upgrade and migration complexity. Now let's look at the typical reasons why upgrading custom components can be costly. We sometimes need to rewrite custom components in order for them to keep on working in the next version of SharePoint. Sometimes, if it's a third-party component and the source code is lost, or the vendors are no longer in business, we may need to reverse engineer it, which is super time-consuming. Visual Studio's solution structure for SharePoint projects have changed considerably since MOS, also known as SharePoint 2007. We may need to perform a source code conversion to follow the new structure, especially when we have to rewrite old components, and so on. The process of migrating user content itself could be expensive. There are typically two ways to migrate user content to the new farm. Firstly, we have many third-party tools out there in the market, and secondly, we can migrate using content database migration using the out-of-the-box tools provided by Microsoft. Let's take a look at the third-party tools. There are many third-party tools out there in the market, but by far the most popular are the tools from ShareGate and Metalogix. However, in our experience, for any large migration effort, these tools are not complex enough, and we often need to write a lot of scripts in order to compensate for that. These tools also cannot handle farm-scoped customizations very well. Basically, there are no silver bullet. For the second approach of content database migration, we have other set of challenges. We need to ensure that the legacy SharePoint packages are installed in the new SharePoint farm, which might need a rewrite of old components. The migration error logs can be cryptic, and it takes time to troubleshoot. And we always find that we have recurring issues with custom site templates, web templates, list definitions, etc. So to summarize, when we decide to upgrade old components or migrate our SharePoint farm, it has a lot of customizations, it can get expensive. We also need to consider the additional challenges due to the fact that SharePoint as a platform is changing. SharePoint is a great product and it makes amazing strides with each new version, but these major changes could impact how we build SharePoint sites significantly. So I'll start the timeline with Moss. So in 2007, we were encouraged to use Silverlight to build cross-browser applications, but it quickly became deprecated. Fast forwarding to 2010, Microsoft introduced SharePoint Online, which is great, and we were encouraged to use sandbox solutions to deploy our customizations. At this point, we could still package custom server-side assemblies. A lot of developers loved it and started building sites this way. When SharePoint 2013 was released, the new app model was introduced, but here's the kicker. The custom code sandbox solutions introduced just 3 years ago was heavily discouraged. We could say deprecated. This was a high impact change and we needed to change the way we build SharePoint sites. In 2014, we were introduced to yet another set of API called the Office 365 API. So in short, SharePoint is changing and the dev model we know and love will not work forever. Even though SharePoint is evolving, we can still notice a pattern to the madness and come up with a strategy to future-proof our solutions, or at least as much as possible. Microsoft is pushing towards the cloud and hybrid solutions. So CSOM API and RESTful services are going to be super important. Any farm-level customizations are discouraged, thus custom assemblies should seldom be used. So if we stick to these guidelines, we should be okay. We talked about how customizing SharePoint could lead to huge costs later on, and also how the evolving platform could make our customizations not work anymore. Responsible development is an approach we developed to answer to these challenges. Responsible development is a development approach that we use to future-proof SharePoint customizations and minimize the hidden cost that I talked about earlier. Responsible development is a combination of SharePoint development patterns along with our own twist. We basically describe the right way to customize SharePoint and avoid the pitfalls. Now let us look at the high-level guiding principles of responsible development. Firstly, we should use REST and CSOM API as much as possible. For example, instead of using custom assemblies to build web parts, we can build them using JavaScripts running on client machines, which calls either CSOM or RESTful services. Use the same source code that can work in either SharePoint Online or on-premise. Use out-of-the-box components as much as possible. We found creative ways to use out-of-the-box web parts provided by Microsoft to do some amazing things, which I'll show you in the demo later on. We should always avoid customizing site templates. If we do need to customize sites, we should provision them using out-of-the-box components and then customize it after the fact. And finally, we decided against using traditional SharePoint packages or WSP packages. We use CSOM API via PowerShell to do all our provisioning. Responsible development came out of our desire to build solutions within Office 365. And what we realized is that if we build solutions for SharePoint Online, then we can also use the same solution for on-prem implementations as well. Now, clients do not need to decide to move to the cloud ahead of time because it doesn't matter. We have the same code base for both types of solutions. Here are the key benefits of using responsible development. Firstly, SharePoint sites are always ready for the cloud. And since it's mostly creative use of out-of-the-box components, the upgrade and migration complexity is greatly reduced or eliminated. We use responsible development techniques for all intranets, on-prem or cloud, it does not matter. These are the development models that are supported by responsible development. There are other development models out there, but they can lead to customization tax. So for the SharePoint app model, particularly the full-page apps are great for running server-side business logic. Direct embedded REST or CSOM model is basically some JavaScript being executed on client browser. We build custom web parts this way. To provision the initial site structure of an intranet, we use CSOM API via PowerShell scripts. Our SharePoint deployment engine is based on this. Finally, we have no-code sandbox solution. We use this only if we really need to, since we prefer to deploy solutions without any WSP packages or traditional SharePoint packages. Now, what can we customize using responsible development, even though it looks like we have less development models to play with? And what we realized is that we can customize pretty much anything. So here are some of the things that we have been customizing. We can have custom branding, custom navigation, list and libraries, site structure, content rollups, custom web parts, and so on and so on. At Habanero, we have built our own framework to build SharePoint portals quickly. Portal Accelerator is built based on responsible development methodologies. Portal Accelerator is not a product or an intranet in a box. It's a way of approaching SharePoint development and customizations. Portal Accelerator ensures that your portal will work in the cloud and in any version. Our Portal Accelerator gets better over time because of our experience working on projects and pushing SharePoint to new limits. It's more than just a code library. It enables us to develop faster, more efficiently, and for a lower cost than starting from scratch with every new SharePoint engagement. So, for example, if you want to build or add a custom managed metadata column that is searchable, the traditional approach to getting this done would require more than 10 steps. Not only that, you would have to work with really strange numbers and GUIDs. Making mistakes can be all too easy. With our Portal Accelerator, we're able to complete the same task with the same functionality in just a couple of steps. In short, the Portal Accelerator enables us to put responsible development into action. It's more of a means to an end, not a tangible product that is right in every single situation. Now I will briefly switch over to my demo machine and we'll see responsible development in action. Now this is a demo portal that we have built using Portal Accelerator and responsible development. And as you can see, we have some custom components here. We have custom navigation and custom branding. We also have some custom web parts. And all of this was built without using Camel or the traditional WSP packages. So just to show you some example of a custom web part that we have built. I'll go ahead and edit this web part. So this was showing us the red alerts before. So I'll go and edit this web part. And what we were able to do is we were able to add these custom properties section to basically an out-of-the-box Microsoft web part. This is actually an XML viewer web part behind the scenes. And to prove that, I'll just go and cancel this window. And I'll go and export this web part. And as you can see, the assembly is from Microsoft, is not one of our own. So all of this is driven through JavaScript, changes to the master page, CSOM API, etc. The content for this web part is coming from a list behind the scenes through CSOM. All right, so let's take a look at our news section. And we have a couple of pages. The content is a little bit sparse here because this is a demo site. And let's take a look at the Q3 results page. I'll look at the metadata for this page. And as you can see, we have a field called, let me just find that, field called category. And this is a manage metadata field. As you can see, there's the tag icon here. And we can see that currently this field is bound to event categories, but this is the wrong one. We want to change it to something else. So let's take a look at what other term sets that we have in our site. And by the way, we have provisioned all of these term sets through Portal Accelerator as well. So the field should be pointing to news categories instead. So in order to do that, I'll switch over to Visual Studio. And what you can see here is our solution structure. And this project, by the way, is not the regular SharePoint project, so it doesn't generate any WSB packages. So it's basically some folders that we have added that is recognized by our Portal Accelerator framework. So I'll go ahead and open up our fields, and I'm interested in altering one of the news page fields. So I do have the file open here. And as you can see, this field definition, it looks like Microsoft Camel, but it really isn't. As you can see, we have a custom attribute called a term set name. And this is all it takes to bind this field to a different term set. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the word event. It's event categories right now, and I'll change it to news categories. And I haven't saved the file yet. I will do that in a minute. And I just want to show you that we have this process running in Visual Studio, which is basically waiting for me to save the file. And as soon as I do that, it'll recognize that something has changed, and I'll go into action, and it'll immediately work on a live site and make the same change. So it's all synced. So I'll go ahead and save this file. And you'll see the PowerShell scripts are executing behind the scenes. And it's done. And it just deployed one item because that is the only thing that got changed. And I'll go back to our news section of the site. Now let's see what happened. I'll go and edit the metadata of this page. Now as you can see, the category is now, the value of this field is red because we have changed the underlying term set, so this is invalid. So let's take a look at what is available right now. And yes, it is news categories event. Instead of event categories, now we can choose a value that is valid, hit OK, everything is good. So this used to take a few hours before. So that is the end of the demonstration. I'll now pass it over to Spencer. And thank you, everyone.
All right, thanks so much for taking the time to check out our Responsible Development webinar. Please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions and you'd like to learn more. Thank you so much for your time.